Hi, I'm Sierra, and this is Reading Arsenal. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my June reading wrap-up. I'm going to be explaining what I read this past June, and also I'm going to be giving some brief thoughts on each novel. Let's get started. I read 7 books this past month, and the first was Outcast by Robert Cookman and Paul Azaceta. I already did a review for this novel, so I'm going to put a link somewhere on the screen where you can watch it. Basically, this graphic novel revolves around Kyle Barnes, who in one way or another is plagued by demonic possessions all throughout his life. After being abused and accused, he decides he wants answers as to why he has been hounded by these demons. I really enjoyed this novel, and I thought it had a great amount of horror and creepy elements to it. The next book I read was The House of the Scorpion by Nancy Farmer. I reviewed this book on the bottom line. I'll put a link in the description to my review. The House of the Scorpion follows Mateo Alacran, who is a young boy who lives in Opium, a narrow strip of land between the United States and what used to be Mexico. Matt is no ordinary boy, however. He is the clone of a drug lord named El Patron. Matt grapples with the idea of being human while he is surrounded by and threatened by El Patron's family and surrounded by and guarded by these sinister bodyguards. He decides to escape from the El Patron estate, but danger lurks around every corner. I found this novel to be an amazing dystopian story, which I was thoroughly entertained by. The next book I read in June was Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. You can also find a review for this book on my channel. I'll put a link somewhere on the screen. I already know about this book from my video. It basically follows a young man named Clay who decides to work at a 24-hour bookstore, not knowing the secrets and mysterious intrigue he'd be getting himself into. The book, while interesting, it also contrasts the idea of computers versus books and the new medium versus old medium, which I found really interesting. As the narrator can be snarky and fun, and I enjoyed that. The next book I read made me tear up. It is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, based on an idea by Siobhan Dowd, and illustrated by Jim Kay. I also reviewed this book on my blog, link in the description. This follows a young teen named Connor whose mother has cancer. After midnight one night, a monster shows up and wants the truth from Connor, in exchange for some tales the monster wishes to tell. This novel was beautiful, everything about it. The story, the illustrations, and the characters. I'm just going to show you perhaps some examples of some of the illustrations. So beautiful, right? The next book I read was the sequel to The House of the Scorpion, The Lord of Opium by Nancy Farmer. I'm not going to reveal much about this novel as it might spoil some stuff for the first novel. This was a good sequel to it. It wasn't as good as the first one, however. However, it was good in its own right. The next book in June that I read was When Everything Feels Like the Movies by Raziel Reed. You can also find a full review of this book on my channel. I'll put a link somewhere on the screen. I personally did not like this novel. However, it had some good parts to it. It was the most disappointing book of the month for me, and I gave it 2 stars. The 7th and final book in the month of June that I read was The Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling. J.K. never seems to disappoint me with her published writing so far, and her first venture into adult fiction is a good one. Casual Vacancy is about the many cast of characters in the small English town of Pagford. It shows them reeling after the death of a councilman named Barry Fairbrother, and the consequences occurring after his death. I wasn't sure if I was going to like this novel, but I ended up really enjoying it. I'd recommend it to anyone who's into realistic fiction. Hope you enjoyed my June reading wrap-up. Thanks for watching. Bye!